Hey folks, Dr. Mike Israetel here with Injury Prevention Made Simple video number 9, the post-injury comeback. So, you got hurt. Now what? Here's the real deal. Perhaps nobody, certainly any good at anything physical, has ever prevented all injuries. You take a look at every athlete in every sport, especially the gym sports, resistance training type stuff, bodybuilding, powerlifting, weightlifting, and they've had injuries. Everyone's pretty much gotten hurt. You can prevent most injuries, and you can do better than average. Like if the average person has had like 10 pretty serious injuries through their career, if you follow all the steps through all these previous videos 1 through 8, you may be able to get down to 5 or even 2 or 3 major injuries during your entire career. That would be unbelievable. What a huge benefit. Right? What a huge benefit, and you'd be more jacked and have more fun times if you actually follow that. Now, let's say you do get hurt. What do you do now? Right? We do have longer lectures on YouTube about returning back from injury. You can Google that and you'll find it super fast, 30, 40, 50-minute lectures. But here's a real quick take at the process to use after you get hurt to come back to training normally, because it's not just you just come back. All right? How many points in here? Let me take a look. 8. An easy 8-step process for 3 easy payments of $5.99, $99, $99, $99, $99. Point number 1, stop doing whatever hurt you. I know it's crazy, but I get these messages on Instagram and these comments on the post like, hey, my elbow really hurts when I do pull-ups. What should I do? Yeah. Stop doing pull-ups. Stop, at least for a rep, and think about things. If it's a bad injury, we're talking about, this isn't just perception anymore, right? From the last couple of last videos, there's like the pain perception thing where it could just be pain. We're talking about this is a legit injury. So if you have a legit injury, stop doing whatever hurt you, okay? Point number 2 is if it's a bad injury, seek medical attention, okay? And once you get medical attention, follow all the doctors and rehab specialists' advice, get all the advice on surgery, physical therapy, etc. Do whatever it is you need to do, right? So if your quad comes rolling off your knee, like, you don't just ice and elevate that shit. You go to the hospital, they do imaging, or they just look at it and go, yeah, it's a full quad tear. You schedule a surgery, they do the surgery, etc. Next point is number 3. If medical shit had to happen to you, then you have to be cleared medically. Point number 3 is get cleared medically, okay? Which means you're done with surgery and or the PT that follows it, because sometimes you just have PT, sometimes it's surgery and then PT. Almost never is it surgery and then you just disappear, okay? Or if you never need a medical attention because it wasn't that bad, then you're ready for step number 4. Okay, so step 3 is medical clearance / you never needed it. Okay. Here's the comeback. Okay, number 4, you come back to the gym, you choose an exercise for that area that was affected by the injury. Okay, let's say you pulled your bicep, you choose a bicep exercise, and you use super light loads. Okay, 25 to 30% of your 1 rep max. Real light, okay, real light, and you do reps, set sessions. We'll talk about how many it takes in a little bit. Number 1 is focusing on expanding your range of motion with minimal or no pain. So like if you start bicep curls and you hurt your elbow before and you're like, oh, that hurts, and that feels fine, and oh, that hurts right there, and you can't do a full ROM. Every rep, every set, every session, just try to go a little deeper. And after a while, like they say, just as an example, after 2 weeks, you're like, that feels pretty good. Just feel a little twinge at the elbow at the very end, but my ROM is feeling pretty decent. On all of these sets, you go at most to like 4 reps in reserve. So we're not approaching failure because that's a really good way to get hurt again. So all the sets are pretty submaximal. It can be a little frustrating, but remember, your mission isn't to stimulate the muscle a ton. It's to stimulate the muscle a bit, really work on a return to that range of motion with minimal or no pain. This can take a while, or it can take like 1 or 2 reps, depending on the nature of the injury. Once that feels completely fine, which is to say, with a load of 25 to 30% of your 1RM, going 4 reps or more shy from failure in a session, can you do that exercise with a full range of motion with minimal or no pain? Okay. If that's the case, then you're ready for point number 5. If it's not the case, you're at point number 4. 4 can last 1 rep, 4 can last 2 months. It's not your call, it's the injury's call. Number 5, once you're able to do all the stuff in point number 4, you begin doing sets of 20 to 30 reps to your 20 to 30 RM. Totally fine, very similar to last time, But now you go from 3 RIR to 0 RIR. These are true hard sets. But look, you got the range of motion, you basically don't have pain anymore, so you're kind of good to go. Notice we're not going super heavy yet, so we don't want to load that structure with a ton of force. That's a real good way to re-injure it. You can consider occlusion at this point. If you occlude your biceps or your forearms or your calves, that can allow you to do less overall load and still get a great hypertrophic response. That's a totally fine idea. Your call if you want to do that or not. And once that completely feels fine, like you've been doing for weeks, sets of 20 to 30 reps, all the way to failure or close, and you're like, dude, I honestly feel great, then you're ready for the next step. Okay? Short of that, wait and be patient, because the good news is, even in point number 4, you're growing some muscle, certainly regrowing it. Point number 5, you're growing a great deal of muscle. So you don't have to worry about getting really into the heavyweight super fast. You may think that after this is over, we just go right into normal training. Nope, we got 2 more points left. Point number 6, phase number 6, is when you slowly add load to get from the 20 to 30 rep range to the 10 to 20 rep range. That means every week you may add like 10 or 15 pounds to the bar or leg press or something. That means it's not like you finish a mesocycle at 20 or 30 reps and then the next time you start doing sets of 10. Do not do that. That is so much more force. It's not great at exposure. It can get you hurt again. Slowly whittle it down over the course of maybe a mesocycle to transition rep ranges. All right? Again, all these are hard sets between 3 and 0 RIR. I would greatly consider pauses and or slow eccentrics to at first minimize the risk, okay? And once that feels completely fine, we're on to our second to last point of essentially normal training, but with some more precautions. You can even use the exercise that hurt you. So if you got hurt on squats, you can start doing squats here. Ease into the warm-ups. Really take your time with the warm-ups because you're back, but you don't know if it's 100% yet. Ease into the heavier loads. You can start to use heavier loads here, but greatly recommend focusing on pauses, on slow eccentrics, maybe even the concentric. Don't just launch it off your chest. Ease back into it. It's still heavy. It's still good to go, but not extreme. And be aware of the priorly injured area while training. Have that mind muscle or mind joint connection. So if you pulled your pec a few weeks ago, now when you're pressing at the very bottom of the machine press, have your mind target that area and be like, all right, I really want to know if something feels weird to back off. So you push through like, okay, right pec feels good. Okay, right pec feels good. You're really aware. You're not just like throwing your headphones, Metallica on blast, and it could be hurting a little more each time, but you're so psychotic on finishing the reps, you're not even paying attention to it. Totally happens. Pay more attention to it. This is not something you'll have to do forever. Just for a few weeks. While it's good, then it's good, right? Once you've done a whole number of reps, sets, sessions like this, and it feels 100% fine to do, and there's nothing weird going on, because sometimes you can start training heavy, and oop, I feel that in my pec right there a little bit. It's nothing bad. You do a set, you feel fine. You do another set, you feel a little less. The next session, you still feel it a little bit, but less. You're still feeling it, so don't move on to the next one. But if you really just, honest to God, can't even tell where or when you had the injury, then you move into point number 8. You resume normal training completely. How long is this going to take? How long is that whole process going to take? All phases added up together, because you never skip phases. You have to do phases one by one by one. It depends on the injury. Here's a spectrum of samples for you, from extreme to extreme. It may never happen. You may never feel normal ever again. A full pec tear, even if they repair it with current technologies, it's 2021, you don't ever feel the same again. Your pec doesn't look the same. It always feels a little weird. Pressing always feels strange. It's just never going to happen. Best way to not have this happen is do not tear your pec. You have a lot of choice in that. Not fully, but you have plenty of choice in that. Another option is it can take more than a year. So if your tendon ruptures from your tricep, they can reattach it for you. And a lot of times that surgery goes really well. Eventually it might feel a little weird or not weird at all, and you're back to normal. That usually takes like a year, because even if you can start training your triceps really hard after 6 months, it's going to feel something different's going to feel in there. I promise. Sometimes that goes away completely. It can take a long time. So don't worry if this whole process takes up to a year, because that's just part of what you're getting. The good news is after that, your chance of injury will be super low. If you mess this up, we'll talk about that in just a sec, you're just going to be back to square one really, really fast. So does it suck that it can take a year? Yeah. Is it up to you? It's just not up to you anymore. You just are presented with this option. It can take a few months. If you damage some knee cartilage, after 3 months, you may be back 100%. If for example, you strain your quad, it can just take a few weeks. Like your quad feels weird for you to take a recovery session, and then you do light, and then you do a little less light, and then after a few weeks, you're good to go, and you literally just go to phase number 8. It can also take a few days. Like you tweak your glute at the end of your last rep of lunges, you're like, shit. It feels a little weird sitting on the toilet the next day, and you're like, fuck. And then you come in for your glute workout, halfway through the week, you do like your normal glute stuff, and you're like, I don't feel it. And then you slowly do the high rep stuff, and you're like, I feel good. And then you go to your normal glute shit, normal weight, normal everything, and it's just like it never happened. Sometimes it's just one like half week cycle, a few days, everything heals completely, right? Here's the reality. Hugely important thing. You do not choose how long this process takes. Your body does, right? Here is this huge statement to close out this whole series on due diligence. You can skip a bunch of these steps if you want to get more hurt, probably in a way that's even worse. If you strained your pec and you keep pushing it, you might tear your pec altogether. Huge difference between how that recovery goes. As you saw in the earlier example, one of those may never recover fully. One can recover basically completely. Or you don't get worse, you just stay hurt, and you have a 6-month period where you're like, I just got 6 months of the worst lat training ever because I never let my lat fully heal. And I was always kind of working around it. I should have just backed off, did this whole process, and then it would have been back essentially to 100%. If each stage really does feel completely normal, it's okay to even just do one set per stage. Like you literally show up to the gym, and you're like, I think I hurt my quad. You do one set where it's just essentially slow range of motion stuff. At the end of that set, you feel fine. Okay. Next set, I do a high rep set pretty hard. I feel fine. Next set, I do a set of 10 to 20 pretty hard, but I'm pausing and I'm doing slow eccentrics. I feel okay. Next set, I go heavy, but I'm really paying attention to that form range side. I'm fine. Last set, I go super hard and everything's fine. That's it. It's a 1-session healing process. That happens on occasion. It means it wasn't a very serious injury, maybe no injury at all, just some pain perception stuff. On the other hand, do not rush. Okay, your body has to tell you when it's good to go, not your mind. If you're sitting into a deep squat and your knee's like, and your training partner's like, how's it feel? You're like, it feels great. Let's do it. Don't do that. You're fooling nobody, right? And err on the side of a slower return. If you're like, ooh, man, my pecs feel pretty good. I could do another week of this kind of high rep rehab training, or I could get into the heavy stuff next week. You already have your answer. Err on the side of a slower return. It's not a cop-out. It's just wise. Because if you err on the side of a slower return, you still get great results, still get some hypertrophy, it's just higher rep stuff for a week, and then you're good to go. Or for 2 weeks or for 4. You still get some results. At the very least, you don't lose anything. But if you return too quickly, if you injure the same area twice, your chance of a complete recovery subsides substantially, and your chance for potential re-injury of even worse, and that injury site keeps being a problem for the rest of your career, gets super high. An injury is a good fucking warning to you to stop doing dumb shit and really treat yourself. If you don't take it that way, it can get worse and worse and worse, folks. That's it. Stay safe, be smart, and intelligently push the limits as hard as you can. See you next time for the next series.